Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
Happy Wednesday to you. Thank you all for watching us tonight. Those of you who are watching online, you're watching on our several platforms, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. We are so grateful to be in your space tonight. I have four other amazing people with me tonight, and I'm going to introduce them, and we're going to have a really great conversation tonight about a variety of topics. As you know, is a very organic conversation. But I want to introduce three of the new persons tonight that will be a part of our conversation. I'm going to ask them just to give about a real quick 60-second blurb about how did they end up in this journey. You know, we all experience grief in some form or fashion. Some is sooner than others. Some has been a time in which we've experienced our loss, but we're in a place to where we're all here. This is a road that we all will have to travel. And so tonight I want to introduce Miss Gretchen Key Williams, Miss Rasha Kelly, and Gail Connor. I think you know that I'm Dr. Johnson and Natasha Pierre from NAMI. And so I'm grateful that they're here. I'm going to start with Gretchen just for about 60 seconds. Tell us about your journey and how did you get here? Because I think your journey is the freshest out of all of us. So just share with everyone that is watching about your journey. And then we're going to come to you, Rasha, and then we're going to come to you, Gail. I think you're muted. You're muted. Make sure you're unmuted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Thank you, Gretchen.
Hi, everybody. My name is Gretchen Key Williams. I lost my husband on April the 15th, which will be 2 weeks on tomorrow. It was very unexpected. He passed away from a heart attack. And I don't know if it's a story behind it. So right now I'm in a good place because I don't have any questions behind, what exactly happened. And like I stated, it's a story behind it. So that may be why I'm able to have such grace and such strength right now as my peers and my friends and family have noticed that I have. It has been a very long journey with me and him. We've been together since, we were 19, 20 years old. And right now I'm 42 and he would have been 44 next month. So and that's where I'm at right now.
Gretchen, let me say I applaud you of being here tonight. And I know you've been watching the last couple of weeks and how this is. When we started this, there's no way you would have thought that you will be sitting where you are right now, having this conversation. There's no way. Because I believe that you commented on this before your husband passed, if I remember correctly. And but you're here now, and I applaud that. And we're giving you virtual hugs and claps just to celebrate you and your triumph and just being here tonight to make that first step. Because somebody's going to listen to you tonight like, wow, it's only been 2 weeks, 13 days, and we're here. So thank you so much. Rasha, would you talk to us and tell us about your journey?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I recently this month lost my father on Easter Sunday. Very devastating. Sometimes you lose a parent and you're just losing that parent. But in my situation, my father, he wore many hats in my life. So he was my father. He was the pastor of my church. He was my pastor all of my life, my mentor, my friend. So very just devastating. And I feel like, this is the first time that I'm experiencing real grief. And it's hard. But, you can just take it one day at a time and you know that God is in control. And God has just reminded me that, your father isn't here physically, but God reassured me that he's here with me, walking with me through this journey. So I want to thank you for having me today.
We applaud you as well. We're virtual hand clapping and sending hugs. Easter was not that long ago. And so for a person that has been so significant for you to be in your life for all of these years, to wear those many hats, we celebrate you and Gretchen tonight. The next person is Ms. Gail Connor. And Gail is an amazing journey in which she's on. And that she's been on. So just for about 60 seconds, Gail, tell us about your journey when it comes to grief and what you're dealing with currently.
Hello, thank you. January of 2020, my baby girl, 28 years old, military, was shot 6 times. She had a 6-year-old son at the time. We are still in court trying to trial this case, and in the process of that, about 2 months later, the father stepped in and took away my grandson, and that was my only grandson. So it seems like 2 deaths. I grieve every day, and all I can say is it's still fresh. And I know y'all's almost just in the last couple of weeks to a month. I can't. It's hard to even accept that all this happened, and I can't believe it happened. Period. So that's kind of my story now.
Well, we're sending virtual hugs to you and hand claps to you because you've had 2 lost, a daughter and a grandson. And so tonight, Natasha, navigate us in our conversation. And how do we speak life into Gretchen and Rasha and Gail and those that are watching? And still tackle the issue of loss more than just a physical person, but also the things that we lose. So we greet all of you that are watching, Rick and Renee. Thank you so much for watching. And those others that may be watching, we always ask that you will type in the box to let us know that you're watching because we're on different platforms. So Natasha, help us navigate our conversation tonight.
Well, first of all, for Gretchen and Gail, the grief is fresh. And to a person who's grieving, whether it was yesterday or 2 weeks ago or 2 years ago or 17 years ago, sometimes it can feel just as fresh. And so thank you all first tonight for being here and sharing your stories. I am sending you all hugs and love, but this is real life. This is real life, Dr. Johnson. Just because grief may have not knocked on your door, the reality is that there are many people who are grieving, who are in active grief, and the grief is fresh. So what are the questions? How can we be compassionate? How can we be present in the way that people who are grieving need, and not just in the way that's convenient for us? You may not want me to bring, macaroni and cheese. You may want me to, send you a DoorDash coupon. You may want me to come over and help with house cleaning. You may want me to walk your dog. But I think there's a real conversation to be had around how can we support people? How can we be compassionate with people as they're grieving?
So let's deal with that tonight. I think that's a great segue of looking at intersection and Rasha and Gail and Gretchen. Let's talk about how life is different now. Something that you wouldn't have thought about, right? I think that's a conversation that we need to talk about. Natasha, I think you used the word intersection, with so many different things. And we're going to just use that word tonight very interchangeably in various different ways. How do we intersect now that life is different? I think that's one of the biggest things when we are dealing with grief and bereavement. How do we start life over again? What do we do to really capture the essence of who we are? Because the reality is, Gretchen, we're learning us all over again. You're learning yourself without this person that has been there for so long. For me, as I talk about the struggle of, being without my mom, and I was 14 years old. I was raised by my stepfather and him passing away from an aneurysm. And we're seeing him on the scene and had to identify him right then and there as being a 14-year-old. And then with my mother, talking to her one day, preparing for her to come home from rehab. And then within 12 hours, she's gone. Those things just really hit you. How do you just intersect with that? And so, Natasha, guide the conversation tonight as we talk to Rasha and Gretchen and Gail. What's different? How have you seen life differently now because that person isn't there?
Well, there's so many intersections here. First, there's the grief that when you lose someone and you know that it's coming, you're just hoping that you'd have a little bit more time. Then there's the grief when the loss is sudden, as in murder. How do we deal with grief when it intersects with the criminal justice system? When, there is family strife, when there are unresolved answers and issues still at play that seemingly prolongs the grief. One of the things, and, I've shared in the past weeks, since 2019, November 6, 2019, I've lost 8 people. And what has kept me going and what I've kept to the forefront of my mind is the hope that although life isn't what I want it to be with the people that I want here, I have a hope that tomorrow I'll learn to love this new normal. I think 2020 taught us all that new normal, the pivot, we had to experience life, physical distancing, socially distancing. It was a quick pivot. We really had to quickly adjust to it. And when there is a loss, we also have to quickly adjust because we're still moms and dads and sisters and parents and employees and business owners and us. And we have life that we need to live, but it's missing people or things that we're accustomed to. So what I'd like to hear from everyone is what has allowed you to keep hope that tomorrow the pain will be less. Tomorrow I'll learn to love this new life a little bit more. Tomorrow I'm going to keep pushing and pressing. What has that been like for you all? Because the grief is still a bit fresh. And I guess we'll start with Gretchen.
I actually think that God has been preparing me for this moment, and I didn't realize that He was. Like I stated, me and Sean, that's my husband's name. We had been together since '98, but we divorced back in 2016, and then we got back together in 2018. And during that time that we were separated and divorced, it was a time that was needed. A lot of things had went on during the course of our relationship, but he grew and I grew. And then when we came back together, we were ready to grow together. But during the time that we came back together, which, was 2018, it wasn't all, peaches and cream. And then the pandemic happened. I like to call it to where I kind of like been minding my business. And when I say I've been minding my business, I have been studying myself. I've been studying, the Word of God, all the way up until the week before he passed. I can't remember if it was a dream or if it was a thought that I had that I was going to have to speak at his funeral. And when the following week, I didn't tell anybody that I had that thought or that dream. And then the following week he passed and it came true. So everything that has happened all the way up until now since we've gotten back together, and I've been kind of like minding my business and paying attention to me and him and our relationship and the relationship with my daughter. And it's kind of like everything has kind of like came full circle.
Gretchen, I don't mean to cut you off. I want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. And you'll find out I'm going to pull things out so we hear conversation, right? Would you agree that somehow life, God, however you want to say it, gave you a second opportunity as you've been minding your business to really take hold to precious memories? Because the memories that you've had post the divorce and the remarriage is totally different than what you had before, and you're able to hold on to great memories now. Okay.
Yeah. And like all the old stuff that happened, I don't even think about that.
Wow.
I think about everything that has happened from December 2018 up until the day that he passed. And, you know, I don't have any bad thoughts. I don't. So when I say that he left here happy, and I'm happy, and I'm going to continue to be happy, because it's not a healthy state for me to be in, because I got a little girl. You know, she's 9 years old. Does she understand totally? No. Is it going to be fair to her to bring down her quality of life that me and her dad came back together to provide? And I have to continue that. So, I mean, I see people and they're down. Like, I have a friend, she's still down, and she lost her son 4 years ago. I don't want to be that person, because it's no quality of life in that.
So one thing we understand is grief is a choice, an individual choice, and how you choose the process, you know.
Yeah.
And I get it. And you're saying to your friend, whatever happened and whatever you're processing, and it's been 4 years, I get it. But for me, this is what I choose for me. Is that what you're saying, Gretchen? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm choosing happiness in the discussion. It's not even up for debate. And I believe that God is good, and he's good in spite of. And that's just the way that I'm taking it. And I'm going to continue to stand on that and be optimistic about what's to come. Because at the end of the day, I would be a fool to say I didn't know that somebody was going to pass away. I don't know when, but I know that we all one day have a day. We just don't know when that day is. So I have been choosing to only keep people that is in my space that have meaning and purpose. And that's just the way that I choose to, you know, keep people around me. Anything else I don't have time for, because again, I could be talking to you today and tomorrow you could not be here.
True.
So I don't know why I'm chosen to do this, but it's a reason, and God chose me. So I'm just really going with the flow and praying and hoping that he continues to lead me and guide me, you know, to the next journey or the next level.
Powerful.
My faith.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you have to say to that, Natasha?
Everyone has a choice, even in grief. We have a choice on our perspective, and there's no right or wrong, good or bad. It is the individual's choice. And what I'm hearing from you, Gretchen, is in the midst of the uncertainty, in the midst of the unknown, you're choosing the path that's best for you, for your peace and for your happiness, and you're trusting that all of the blanks will be filled in time. And I think being able to find the moments and the places where we can be empowered, even in the grief, even in a situation that we don't like, even when we don't have the answers. And this would be to Gail, when something horrible and horrific has happened and your grief intersects with the criminal justice system, what is your thoughts every night when you go to bed for the hope for tomorrow? What do you think? How do you process it? How do you make sense of it? Because I'm certain there's someone watching, someone that's going to see this and is going to say, well, I didn't know this was going to happen. I didn't have the dream like Gretchen had. I don't even have a faith walk to lean on God. So what do I do next? And Gail, you can share a little bit about what it's been like for you.
Can you hear me now? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. When it first happened, I was so angry, real angry, because the way it was done. I have faith. I pray. It's hard to explain because it's like, that was my baby. That was my child. That was something God gave me and my husband. And how dare someone take that away from me? So, and with the trial that's going on, well, hopefully soon, he says he's self-defense, which I know, I don't believe he's gonna get off or ever get out, but I honestly don't even think about it. If someone asks me what do I want for him, to never come out of prison again. My focus is more on, I have came to a realization that I believe my daughter is good. And I truly believe she will want me to, she will want me more to be healthy, focus on her son. Like I explained, we had him ever since he was 6 weeks old. Father never was in the place at all, never. Now he's gone and we don't get to talk to him, don't get to see him or anything for a year now. I think she would prefer me to do that. I still talk about my daughter, the things we done, because we are a very, very close family. The places we went, the things she said, because she was so funny at times, and she kept us, because we church bound, and she kept us abreast about the funny things was happening in the life, in the world. So we miss that, because I have another daughter that she's not like that. She's good, but she's not like that. I love you, Jessica, but she's kind of a self person. But I go to sleep with my daughter on my mind, with my grandson on my mind. I talk to her. I talk to my grandson, and I know my grandson is not deceased, but when you don't have no interaction or touch or nothing of that, it's like a death to me. We'll fall in and out of depression, and the fact that, sometimes even though it's been a year, some months, sometimes I feel that I could wake up and say, oh, and my daughter was named Angel. And I wake up and say, I haven't talked to Angel. And then I catch myself, because she was a daughter that if we don't hear from her in 3 days, something is not right, because we always FaceTiming. She was stationed in Oklahoma. So, and it was like, sometimes I could catch myself. Sometimes I could dream, I can hear her talking. I can hear my grandson talking, Nana, Nana. So all these things is like, I didn't understand at first why God didn't stop it. And then when I lost my grandson, I said, oh my God, why is this happening? I'm sorry, I'm trying to get through this.
It's okay. Is Jessica Connor your daughter? Okay, she's cheering you on in the comments. She said, you can do it, Mom. And then your Shenqual is saying, I love you, Grandma. So they're supporting you. And you know what I heard from what you said, what I love is that you're still talking about your daughter, still talking about your grandson. And I think sometimes when people are grieving, they're afraid to do that. Jessica says, I'm here, Mom. Sometimes they're afraid to talk about the people that they've lost because they think it's going to hurt more. But I know even for me, sometimes what soothes in the moment is to remember the good times, the laughter, the jokes, the trips, the conversations. And sometimes you think about them and you remember them in just the weirdest moments, the most odd places, and you just have a chuckle. Or you see, you know, one
Right.
person that I lost was a Marine. So every time I see a Marine emblem, I think, all right, okay, you're sending me a message that, you know, you're looking down on me or you're with me. And I appreciate that. And so it's even in those little moments that can sometimes seem bittersweet, you know, just like, you know, Gretchen choosing to take the sweet from it to combat some of that bitter and some of the hurt and some of the loss really helps. And so thank you for sharing that.
Can I say something else? You
Sure.
mentioned about the military. That is true.
Mhm.
Because when I do see, and I'm like, wow, this is what my daughter was. Um, and add on to piggyback about the grief part. I have never lost a husband, but I have lost my mom, my dad, my brother. And when all three of those griefs don't touch the pain of my daughter, it's like I'm here, but I'm not. Every day it's a fight to stay afloat. Um, like I said, I only had 2 kids. I have a son that my husband have. My husband have lost two of his kids, his baby girl and his baby son. So he constantly be in and out of depression. So it's hard. It's hard. So I applaud anybody that can make it through this trauma because right now I feel like I'll never be the same.
Can I just say this is the reason why you never speak about someone's journey if you haven't walked in their shoes. And even if you've walked in shoes that look similar to their journey, it's still not their journey. Because what I experience from loss and what you experience from loss may be two different things. But Gail, I have to tell you, Aunt Gail, Deacon Gail, how you want me to put it? She's my wife's aunt and my aunt now. The thing that all of you, and Rasha, you're going to come into this, all of you must give yourself, and even Natasha, because as you talk about how many people you lost within a certain time period, you have to give yourself credit because you're not internalizing what you're going through. The amazing courage that is taking for you to share this tonight, to share your story, to share your hurt and your pain, and to be vulnerable, that others can hear and see and say, I'm still hurting, but you know what? I'm still here. If nothing else is that the pastor's coming out now. I've been trying to avoid that the last few weeks, but I can't get rid of it. You're still here. That is God showing you that he will never put more on you than what you can bear. And Rick, we see you. You've been rocking with us in the comments the last few weeks, and you need to understand the same thing, that no matter who you have lost, the reason they have passed away, there's a reason why you're still here. And Gretchen, that goes back into what you said earlier. Now it's time for me to mind my business, to work on me, to figure out what am I supposed to learn from this intersection of life? What am I to learn from all of this that I may grow, that I may change, and watch this, that I may help someone else in the process? Rasha, how are you dealing with it? We're talking about intersection. Hopefully
I
you'll
feel
be
like
able to stay on with your Wi-Fi.
I hope you can hear me. I feel like with grief, it comes in waves. One day you're perfectly fine. The next day you can't hold it together. And, a lot of my relatives, they say, don't be sad. Your loved one, he wouldn't want you to be sad. And I say, yes, that's true, but I am. I can't help it. So I think it's important to allow ourselves to feel that pain,
Absolutely.
Don't stay in it. That's what I'm learning. Don't stay in it, but allow yourself to feel that, because that just shows how much you love and care for that person.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
We're normalizing grief. And whatever you're doing to normalize it, to lessen the pain, to make it through the day, as long as it's healthy, is good for you. I would be lying if I said some days I don't think that, Elijah is just on a top secret Marine mission and, he's going to come back in 2 days. Or sometimes I'm working on something for business. I'm like, okay, let me call Bernie. And then I pause, I'm like, okay. And so I go back and I reread emails that were sent. And so that's what I need for that day. Or if I'm driving and I see, a Marine Corps emblem or an Army emblem, I'm like, okay, I take that as a sign that, just to think about them, to laugh about them. If you are running, walking, gardening, last week, we heard of someone cleaning the refrigerator, whatever it is that you're doing to process, to learn to love this new normal, to learn how to adjust without having this person that you love in your life. And even sometimes, whatever you're telling yourself to explain the unexplainable, the whys that we won't know, the why now, why them, why this way, those are answers that we may never have. And how do we move forward without that information in a way that allows us to still be present for our children, for our spouse, for our friends, for ourselves? Whatever you're doing healthy, that's your path, that's your journey.
I want to say something, and I hope all of you understand it, and even those of you that are watching, and those that will perhaps watch this after we've ended. It is okay for me to take off my cape. As I think about all of you, Gretchen, how much you have going on as being a mom, as a business owner, Gail, as being a grandmother, as being a wife, having a business, a bakery, Rasha as being, involved in a business owner and working in banking. And you're so used to being there for everyone and being able to do everything. In this moment, take off your cape, be human, and allow yourself to process the moment. It is okay for you to take off your cape, because we're so used to being there for everyone else. And isn't it interesting? And I don't know if this is real for you. It seems as if the person that is the most giving is there for everyone else. But when it's your turn, you don't always get back the same that you put out to other people, because they're so used to you having on your cape. It is okay. Take it off. Process how you feel.
Yeah.
Don't internalize what's going on. And I'm hoping that everyone that is listening to us really understands what I'm saying when I say take off your cape, because this is your process to, as you like to say, Natasha, normalize your grief. I have to sit in the moment and be human. I know you were going to say something.
I think this is a very good place for us to share what would you and what do you want people to do for you in this moment? Like what helps? Because sometimes people are uncomfortable with another's pain and with another's grief and with another's journey. So for all of those people who are watching, like, I want to call you, but I don't know what to say. It's kind of been 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 5 years, 17 years. I don't know. I know you're still grieving. What would you want people to say? I would want people to sit. You don't have to ask me, oh, you're not over it yet, or how long did you know them, or how and why did they die? Sometimes I just want you to sit and allow me to share the stories and tell you what they used to do and how they used to make the coffee and how they used to, leave a message. I just want you to listen. You don't have to do anything. You don't need any wise, creative gems. I don't need the extra scripture. Just listen. So I'll pass to you, Gretchen. How can people show up for you now? Or even a better question is, what do you think people who are uncomfortable or unsure of how to support you, what would you want them to know right now?
Um, I have my circle showed up so much right now. I was in awe. So, as Pastor Jeffrey says, I am superwoman. I'm so many roles to every and anybody that I come in contact with. And literally, I haven't had to worry about anything, all the way down to I'm a hairstylist and I do work full-time job as well. But all of my friends and family and the clients from the salon I work in, they raised up $5,000 for me. That was so unexpected. Um, and they gave me the money, even though I had, money to bury my husband and everything. But they just was like, you always do so much for everyone, and we just wanted to do something for you, so you didn't have to worry about, how you were going to take care of your daughter. My husband was a very quiet person, antisocial, in a lot of ways. But if you knew me, you knew that he was around, even though you might have not physically saw him there. So with that, and then my job gave me some time off or whatever, like I'm just sitting here, I'm trying to think about what I'm going to do every day or whatever, because I'm so used to, being busy and everywhere or whatever. But literally, I'm just taking my time and sitting back and relaxing, which I typically don't get to do. I don't have a worry or thought of how I'm going to take care of my daughter. Because like I stated, I've been minding my business, and the time has came and I was prepared, and I'm thankful that I was prepared for this moment, because in my past life, when I wasn't minding my business, I would have had to go out and be scrambling around and all that stuff. And right now, I don't even have to do that. So, like I stated, I'm in a very good space now, and I've been in that space prior to all of this happening. And my only question is, I don't know how God is directing me and why he chose to use me. That's my only question about, everything that has happened.
Thank you. And Gail, what would you, if someone were to say, how can I support you now? What, regardless of how long it's been, what do you think people need to know about how to support? Because, with your loss, it's not the natural order for a parent to bury a child. That's not the natural order. And so for many parents who still have their children and who may be saying, well, I want to reach out to Gail, but my children are still alive. And so if I go, maybe a reminder. How can people support you now? And what would you want people to know about how to support someone who's lost a child?
Be careful what you say when you're around a mother that have lost a child. You can't, there's certain things you just can't say. Like, oh, don't worry, this child in heaven. Oh, I can go on. But I think they can support me by just coming, visit, calling, going out to lunch, doing something, because I feel everybody's not like me, because I have talked to some parents, they just rather be alone. I don't want to be alone, because when you alone, your mind tends to think and everything. One of my weaknesses I have since this happened is we had some work done on our house, and we had a lot of stuff that I had to put away and go through boxes that we are nowhere near close to. So I have a hard time motivating myself and moving and doing things. It would be nice to have somebody say, well, Gail, I'll come help you. I'll come do it. And then you can see all my junk. But so I mean, just listen. And we don't have to actually talk about my daughter, and be patient, because even though it's been a year, to everyone else that says, well, she should have been over it by now. I just don't believe that you get over it like that. Because, I mean, can I just kind of sort of explain this the best way? When my daughter was murdered, my daughter ran. So now you're thinking, was she scared? Did she know? Did she feel it? Did she plead with him? What did she do? So as a mother, we don't want our kids hurting. We don't want them hurt by nobody, because we would come out like a bear. So sometimes I go back to that, thinking about, was she, even to the point that I talked to doctors about when a person gets shot. When I see a gun, the one that shot her, that same mama, I said, I wonder, is that's the one? What happens when it entered the body? All kinds of weird stuff. People probably don't even think of
That's not
that.
Weird.
But
That's not
I
weird.
do, and so I don't.
No,
Yeah,
no, I need to
yeah,
stop you right there. That's not weird, because you still have questions that you need answers to, because you're trying to find closure. And so
right,
I say that is because I don't want you to think that something is wrong with you. There is nothing
right,
wrong with you. This is not natural. Not only just not to bury a child, it should be the other way around. But then
right,
you have to identify your child. You have
right,
to fly, from Florida to where your child is. And,
right,
you're the closest kin, and you have to go through that entire process. So don't think that that's weird. The process that you're working on now is learning the new normal of your life. That
right,
that depression doesn't take over. That it doesn't take over your thoughts. Take over and bring in that pastor thing is going to come in an evil spirit to where you cannot function.
correct.
That's what we want to make sure does not happen. And also, Gail, I'm gonna say this, and we're gonna go to Rasha and Gretchen. You talked about the people that you have around. In these moments, it depends on, and it really matters, the type of people that you have around. You can have a whole lot of people around, but
Mm-hmm.
it's the type of people that you have around. Those that are going to encourage me. Those that are going to love me. This is not the time to get in my business. I don't need you asking about my finances. I don't need you asking about, well, what really happened. I don't need you doing this and doing that. I need people around me saying, how can I love you? How can I support you? Y'all know it. We're all of the African American perspective, and we act up when somebody dies. It's just stuff comes out. Let me just be straight up. That happens. I can't speak for other cultures, but in the Black culture, as my grandmother would say, people show their behinds. People really show up, and it's just, I can't even grieve in peace because I have to deal with the drama of family. I have to deal with the drama of finance. The secrets that come out when someone dies. I don't have time for that. I'm trying to move on with the rest of my life and keep my mind. That's why I was telling all of you, it's okay to take your cape off and deal with you. The same question for Rasha. What can someone do? Natasha, you can ask her the question. I want to make sure I get your question right. So ask.
Absolutely.
Yes.
How can people show up and support you right now? And if someone is watching and wants to support someone in their life, but they're unsure how, what would you tell them would be best to do?
That's a great question. A lot of my friends, they asked, what can they do? And I said, nothing. I didn't know what would make me feel better. But thankfully, a lot of my friends and family rallied together. They brought food over, make sure I ate every day because I wasn't eating. They brought me flowers, they came and visit, and sat with me. And those things really helped me, overcome grief taking over those first couple of weeks. So just being present, just, still coming, even though the person says, no, I'm okay, still show up.
So, Dr. Johnson, can you give us the directive again? Tell us that it's okay to take off the cape and to accept help. Because we've all, just like Rasha said, what can I do for you? Nothing. I'm good, but we haven't eaten in 3 days. How can I help? Nothing. I'm good, but the laundry has been there for 3 weeks. So sometimes we don't have to be strong. It's okay to say, you know what? Can you do my dishes? Or can you call someone to get my grass cut? Or can you take the kids to school? Or can you just put some money in my DoorDash account? Or send me, give me your Netflix password. And I love what Rasha said. Your friends heard no, I'm good, and still did it anyway. And part of support sometimes is anticipating needs. In the same way, a person who's laid off needs money for groceries and things that food stamps may not be able to provide. When there is a loss, people need things. Sometimes no one has the energy to cook. No one has the energy to clean. Sometimes it's just saying, okay, I'm going to send a maid service over to your house, just so that in your grief, you don't also have to worry about Swiffering. And Dr. Johnson, I'd like to pass it to you to say, can you talk about, from a faith perspective, when it's time to relinquish needing to know or trying to figure out? Because, just to piggyback on what Gail shared, I know I've gone to at length in my mind about, people that I've lost in their final moments. And one of the things that's been beneficial for me is just to say, okay, in my finite mind, I'm not going to understand. I'm not going to have all details. I'm going to turn this over to God because I'm not strong enough to handle it. So can you share a little bit about how faith can help us in grief when we just aren't able to handle it?
Absolutely. I have to say, as the scripture says, God's thoughts are not my thoughts. His ways are not my ways. There is no way that I will ever be able to understand completely the premise and the reason why God does what he does. Number one, because he is supreme, he doesn't have to share with me why he does what he does. But that's not the type of God that we have. I believe that when our heart is pricked in the right way and we have continual communal conversation with God, God will speak to us and help us understand the processes of what we're dealing with just a little differently. For an example, it's okay to ask God, why did this happen? But I don't question God as if God is not God. I'm asking a question so that God will help me process what I'm going through. I'm asking the question so that God will help me navigate through the hurt and the pain. If God is omniscient, that word omniscience, that means that God is all knowing. If God is all knowing, God definitely sees the stitches that are in my heart. The word of God says that the very hairs on your head are numbered. So that means that God knows everything about you. He knows what's going to happen. For I know the plans that I have for you, saith the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. He knows all of these things. So when it's difficult to hear God when you haven't been talking to God. That's number one. It's very difficult to hear God in moments of loss and grief and pain from a faith perspective when you've been drifted so far away from God. Psalms 91 says, he that dwells in the secret place of the Most High God shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. He that dwells, that means a person that consistently abides in the presence of God. When you abide in the presence of God, when you tabernacle with God, God is there to speak to you in those moments. And it may not be what you want to hear, but he's speaking to you. God is saying to you, I know what I'm doing in your life. I'm growing you. As a matter of fact, this situation happened, but I had, as Gretchen said, I had been preparing you all along for this. This is the reason why you're not in a insane asylum right now. This is the reason why you haven't thrown yourself off of the Skyway Bridge. This is the reason why you haven't done what you've done. Why? Because you're stronger than what you think. Because God has been living on the inside of you. So my faith is, God, I may not understand everything, but I trust you. That's my faith. I may not understand it, but I trust you. And because I trust you, I'm going to believe that you're going to navigate me through this process. That's where your mind has to be. That God, you're too wise and too just to make a mistake or do wrong. And because of that, I'm going to trust. We sing the song, an old hymn, and I end with this. I'm going to trust in the Lord until I die. I'm going to stay on the battlefield until I die. We have to take all of those things that we've been singing all of these years, these scriptures that we've been quoting all of these years, these sermons that we've been hearing all of these years, and we have to live it out now. Show yourself to me. I tell our church all the time, God, I want to be where you are and not where you were. God, I want to be where you are and not where you were. Because wherever you are, that's where my joy is. That's where my peace is. That's where my strength is. That's where my hope is. Because everything that I need is in you and not in me.
Powerful. Closing thoughts from everyone. Mine would be that there is tremendous strength in hope. There's tremendous strength in saying, I'm going to bed and I'm waking up tomorrow and I don't know what everything is going to be, but I'm hopeful that I'm going to hurt a little less, that it's going to sting a little less, that I'm going to smile a little bit more, that I'll be able to process everything that I'm going through. There's tremendous strength in hope. What would be your parting words, Gretchen?
Gretchen has a baby.
No, it's not my baby. I believe in hope. I always been a big dreamer. So yeah, April 15th, the devil tried to knock me down. He tried to steal my joy, but he's not gonna win. I'm so sorry. He can't have me. He might can have somebody else, but
Not me.
not me. I'm not the one to be played with. That's just
Amen.
my take on everything. I'm not the one to be played with.
Thank you. Gail, what would be your parting words for tonight?
I'm going to use a saying my kids used to always say, PUSH, push till something's happened. So I just keep moving.
Absolutely. Push. I pray until something happens. I love that. Just keep going. One foot in front of the other. I love it. And Rasha, what would be your parting words tonight?
I say try different things until you find what works for you. I have been journaling. I have been listening to my gospel every morning to get myself going. I have been praying. Sometimes you have to do many things and just see what works for you. And I will say, exercise, get out and take a walk, talk to God, talk to your loved one. And it's very good for your mental health as well. So those are some of the things that I've been doing.
Wonderful. Thank all of you, Natasha, Gretchen, Rasha, Gail. Thank you for your time. Once again, we're sending virtual hugs. We're celebrating your victory and how you're overcoming the moments of your life. And if you don't remember anything else that was said tonight, especially from me, it is okay to take off your cape. Those of you that are watching, thank you so much for watching. I think we have 2 more weeks in this installment as we're going into May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month. And we want to make sure that we're providing as many resources and tools. Do me a favor, share this video. If this was a great blessing to you, take our YouTube video, take the Facebook, share it with someone, and let them know there is still hope. Ladies, don't go anywhere, but thank the rest of you for watching tonight, and we'll see you next Wednesday.